I picked up this contact paper from the Dollar Tree. It's a clear contact paper, and I'm just cutting off a portion, and this is going to kind of pertain to what size board you're going to be using. I took my portion, I folded it in half, and then using a ruler, I'm going to make 7-inch angles. All the way down the paper. You're going to need the whole roll for this particular project. And then I'm going to cut my angles out. So I'm going to cut my 7 inches, and then at every 7 inches, I'm going to cut across. And I'm going to go all the way up my contact paper to the very end. And then I'm going to open it up, and you can see I created a tree. Now this board is 4 feet by 7.5 inches, and I'm going to start by painting it with Wise Owl white primer. I don't want to deal with any bleed through. As you can see, the knots in my pine will eventually bleed through. But this primer will stop that. It will block that from happening. And then before my primer was fully dry, I took dry time in a roller and rolled it on, and I was not worrying about full coverage. I was concentrating down the center of my board, and it kind of gave me that marble effect. So it was not perfect, and that's kind of what I wanted. So I'm laying out my tree, and when you start to release this from this contact paper, you have to be careful. This is, it's delicate. So I unraveled it halfway down, stuck it to my board, and I'm concentrating on just the edges, and then I continued to unravel it down the rest of the board. I'm not worrying about this being flat on my board. Again, I'm just going around and making sure my edges made contact so I don't get any bleed through. And then I don't want to waste any more of this primer, so I use the rest of it over the top of my board. And again, I'm not worrying about full coverage, especially down the center now. And I'm just taking a art brush or like an angle brush, and I'm dabbing along the edges to kind of give a little bit of a texture. And then I'm going to release my contact paper, and now I have the image of the tree down my board. This is a 9-inch wood circle. The rectangle is 4.5 by 9.5 inches. And the small circle is 3 inches, and I'm layering it to get this effect, and I'm making a mark where I need to cut. I use a jigsaw to cut my lines, so now I have this long piece. The smaller circle is it's a little more than half, and I'm going to start by painting the longer piece in the smoky quartz, the circle in the goldenrod, and then my rectangle in the chocolate. Now I'm going to go and layer these on the way that I want them to look finished, and I'm going to create a line so when I glue this, I know exactly where to place it. I'm going to use Elmer's glue and that little bit of hot glue to hold it in place while the Elmer's glue is drying. I'm going to find that line that I created and attach my pieces to the back of my rectangle. And here you go. Now I have this little manger that looks like the baby Jesus. That's what my mind sees anyway. And I'm going to clamp that and allow that to dry. So I'm going back to my board, and I have these 21-inch paint sticks that you can pick up right at Lowe's. They come in a pack of 3. I'm going to mark where I need to cut them for the bottom portion of the manger. This time I used my miter box to cut my pieces, and then I'm going to use the Elmer's glue and again a little bit of the hot glue to glue it back down using some painter's tape as a guide. Now I really should have painted these before I placed them down. I'm not always thinking, and I didn't this time, but I do have a solution. So once I had my pieces all glued down, again I'm using Elmer's glue and a little hot glue to hold it in place. I taped it off again to paint my sticks in the chocolate to match the rest of the manger. And then removed my tape. Now I'm going to glue down the manger with the baby Jesus using the Elmer's glue, a little bit of hot glue. I'm using my painter's tape just to help me keep it straight. This is not always easy for me when I'm creating this for you guys to see, to have everything line up straight. I glued this star and this bow. I found the star at Target, the bow at our Dollar Tree. And now this is a mesh stencil, and it says peace on earth, goodwill towards men, and there's joy. You want to remove it from its package, but you want to keep the package. And I'm going to be using my Redesigned by Prima rubber spreaders and my Maker Studio black ink. And this mesh stencil is also by a Maker Studio. She does beautiful stencils. You can find all of this at chalkitupfancy.com. We are a retailer for a Maker Studio and for Redesigned by Prima. And I'm going to take my ink on my pad and using just a light pressure, I want to make sure this ink passes through to the other side of the board. This does not require a lot of ink. And then I'm going to remove my stencil. You want to wash your stencil right away with water. And now you have this beautiful manger Christmas sign, leaning porch board. Peace on earth, goodwill towards men. I really hope you enjoyed this video. For other tutorials, go check us out on YouTube. You can now watch all our videos at chalkitupfancy.com. For any paint products, tissue paper transfer, or mesh stencils, chalkitupfancy.com. Thank you.